Before we get into tonight's stories, drop a comment and tell me where you're listening from. I write these from New Jersey, and every time I see how far they travel, it genuinely surprises me. Let me know you're out there. I'd worked the late window at that location for about 2 years, so I knew the regulars, the overnight truckers, the college kids making bad decisions, the occasional couple who'd clearly just had a fight and needed something warm to hold. You learn to read people pretty fast when you're handing food through a window at midnight. He was different from the start, though I wouldn't have been able to tell you why if someone had asked me back then. Mid-40s, maybe. Salt and pepper stubble. Always the same order. Large coffee, no sugar, apple pie if we still had it. Always paid cash. Always showed up between 11:45 and 11:52, which meant we were technically still open, which meant I had to serve him. I didn't think much of it at first. People have routines. Night people especially. If anything, I remember being a little annoyed rather than alarmed. Like, can't you get your coffee somewhere that's actually open? But he was polite. Quiet. Tipped the change jar every time. Never lingered at the window longer than he had to. It was maybe the 3rd or 4th visit before I noticed he always waited until the lot cleared out. I don't know when that detail registered exactly. One of those things you clock without realizing you've clocked it. The other cars would pull through, the last few stragglers would clear, and then he'd appear. Like he was timing it. I mentioned it once to Dara, who worked the fryer on my shift. She shrugged. Some people just don't like lines. Which was reasonable. Which is the thing about small, wrong details. They're always reasonable until they're not. The night everything changed, it was a Tuesday in late October. Cold front had moved through. The kind of damp cold that gets into your joints. We'd had a slow night and I was ready to be done. I counted the till, helped wipe down, clocked out around 12:15. The lot was empty. My car was the only one left by the side entrance, which was normal. I always parked there because the light by the main lot had been out for a month and nobody had fixed it. I was maybe a mile from the restaurant when I felt it. That low, rhythmic wobble that moves up through the wheel and into your hands. I've had a flat before. You know what it feels like. I pulled over onto the shoulder of County Road 4 and sat there for a second, the hazards clicking, staring at the dark tree line on both sides of the road. I texted David first. I have a flat. County Road 4 near the Sunoco. Can you come? Then I tried calling. It rang once and cut to voicemail. I looked at the top of my screen. No service. The text had probably gone out through the last sliver of signal before I lost it entirely. I got out and crouched next to the front driver's side tire, completely flat. I had a spare in the trunk, but I'd never changed a tire alone in the dark, and I wasn't going to start on the shoulder of a County Road 4 at 12:30 in the morning. I stood up and looked both directions. Nothing in either direction, just the hazard lights throwing orange pulses across the asphalt. Then, far down the road behind me, a single pair of headlights appeared. I got back in the car and locked the door. People drive past breakdowns all the time. It doesn't mean anything. But the car slowed as it approached, and then it pulled up behind me and stopped, the engine idling. I heard the door, footsteps on gravel, then a knock on my window. I knew who it was before I turned my head. Some part of me already knew. He was standing close to the glass, hands in his jacket pockets. He didn't smile when I cracked the window an inch. "Saw your hazards," he said. "Flat?" "Yeah." I kept my voice flat, Normal, like my heart wasn't doing what it was doing. I'm okay though. My boyfriend's already on his way. He nodded slowly. Long wait on this road. He's close, I said. But thank you. Another nod. He stood there a second longer than felt natural, eyes moving across the front of my car, then back to my face. All right, he said, and walked back toward his car. I exhaled, tried David again. No service. Tried to think about whether I could change the tire fast enough, whether I should just try walking to the Sunoco, whether David would know to come here if the text had gone through. I was running through options when I heard it. The rear door handle. Somebody was trying to open my rear passenger door. I did not breathe. I did not move. The handle lifted and pulled, and then stopped. Silence except for my hazards and the wind moving through the trees. I unlocked my phone and dialed 911. I was terrified it wouldn't connect. It rang. 911. What's your emergency? I started talking before she'd finished the sentence. I said my location. I said there was a man outside my car who had tried to get in. I said I was a woman alone on County Road 4 and I needed someone now. She told me to stay in the vehicle and stay on the line. She said 2 minutes. I watched his silhouette through my rear view. He was standing beside his car, not getting in, just standing. Then somewhere behind him, maybe half a mile out, a siren. He got in his car. The headlights came on, and he pulled a U-turn without signaling and drove back the way he'd come. No speed, deliberate, unhurried. Like someone who'd done the math and decided this particular night wasn't worth it. The officer who responded was young, couldn't have been more than a few years out of the academy. He took my description, wrote it down, walked around my car with a flashlight. He crouched at the flat tire for a long time before he said anything. This wasn't a normal flat, he said. This was cut. He showed me the sidewall, a clean, narrow puncture. Not a road hazard, not a nail. He asked me if I could think of anyone who might want to do something like that. I thought about Tuesday nights, about cash in hand, an apple pie, and a face that always appeared when the lot was empty. I thought about how long he had been watching me leave before he found out where I parked. I gave the officer everything I could remember. I don't know what came of it. I transferred locations 2 weeks later, put in for an opening on the day shift at a store across town, and I took it without thinking twice. I still check my tires before I get in my car. Every time. No matter where I am or what time it is. Some habits don't let go of you. I was stalking the health and beauty aisle around 1 a.m. when I heard him for the first time. Not words exactly. More like the register of a voice raised past what the situation called for. I worked overnights at a supercenter on the east side of Columbus. Had been for about 3 years, and you get a feel for the different kinds of loud, drunk loud, impatient loud, mental health crisis loud. This one I couldn't place, so I left my cart and walked toward it. He was at the self-checkout. Heavy-set, late 50s, wearing a fleece vest despite the fact that it was July. The kiosk had frozen on him, and he was talking to it in this low, controlled voice that was worse than yelling would have been. "I've told you twice," he said. "I've told you twice already." I ran the override code, got him through, apologized for the machine. He looked at me for a second too long. "What's your name?" I told him. pointed at my badge out of habit more than anything. He read it, looked back at my face. "I'll remember that," he said, and left. I mentioned it to Kevin, the overnight supervisor, who said we got guys like that constantly and to log it if I wanted. I logged it. Didn't think about it again until the following Thursday, when I happened to glance at the entrance doors around 1:45, and there he was, same vest, walking in like he had somewhere to be. I told myself it was a coincidence. People shop at 1 in the morning for all kinds of reasons. Insomnia, night shift jobs of their own. I'd seen the same handful of regulars enough times to recognize faces without thinking anything of it. He went to electronics and stood there, not browsing, standing, facing the front of the store, hands at his sides. I watched him through the gap in the shelving while I worked register 2. After about 20 minutes, he left without buying anything. I almost didn't say anything to Kevin. It felt like nothing. A weird guy standing around a Walmart at 1 in the morning is not, on its own, a story. But I noticed the day after that, and this is the part that still gets me, that I had started doing math without meaning to. First visit, Tuesday, around 1. Second visit, Thursday, 1:45. I started watching the clock differently after that, not consciously. I just find myself glancing at the doors around 12:30 most nights. The way you check a stove you're pretty sure you turned off. He came back 9 days later, which broke the pattern I'd built in my head. And for a few nights, I let myself relax. Then I noticed something smaller. He always parked in the same row, near the cart corral closest to electronics, not the closest spot to the entrance, which is what you'd expect if you were just running in for something. I only knew this because Renee, who smoked outside by the loading dock, mentioned offhand that guy in the vest parked in the same spot every time, and she found it sort of funny. I didn't find it funny. I started checking the lot when I clocked out. The third time I saw him up close was a Sunday, closer to 2 in the morning. I came out of the stockroom and he was standing in the main aisle about 20 feet from the door. No product near him, nothing he could have been reaching for. He wasn't pretending anymore. He was just looking at me. "You weren't here Tuesday," he said. I hadn't been. I'd taken Tuesday off for a dentist appointment. I hadn't told anyone that wasn't already on the schedule. I didn't answer him. I went back through the stockroom door and stood there with my hand on it for a while, listening for footsteps that didn't come. That night, I looked at my badge for the first time in 3 years like I was seeing it. Department, shift time, days, all printed right there, the way it was for every overnight employee, because somebody in HR years ago had decided it made scheduling easier on the floor managers. I'd worn it every shift since I was hired. I'd never once thought about who could read it besides the people I worked with. I told Kevin about the parking spot, the days, the comment about Tuesday. He didn't have much to offer beyond pulling the entrance footage, which was the first real thing anyone had done, and which confirmed what I'd already half built in my head. 6 weeks, always during my shift, never once when I wasn't scheduled. On 4 occasions, he'd been inside more than 3 hours without buying anything. He left every time before I clocked out, and the parking spot Renee had mentioned, the one near the cart corral by electronics. It wasn't the closest spot to the door. It was the one with the clearest line on the entrance. He hadn't been parking there because it was convenient. He'd been parking there because he could see who came in. We filed a report. Loss prevention banned him from the property. I was told to call the police if I saw him again, and to notify a manager immediately, like there'd be time to do both. He never came back to that store. About a month later, Renee told me she thought she'd seen a man matching his description sitting in a car facing the entrance of the grocery store 2 blocks over. She wasn't sure. Neither of us said much else about it. I switched to day shifts that spring. I told people it was for my sleep schedule, for the commute, for my sister's kids, who I'd started watching 2 afternoons a week. All of that was true. None of it was the reason. I still know what his face looks like, and I still don't clip my badge on until I'm through the employee door. Not in the parking lot, not walking in, not anywhere someone standing in an aisle with nothing in their hands could read it first. The bar was called the Wellspring, which was either charming or pretentious, depending on who you asked. It was the kind of place that tried Edison bulbs over the bar, a rotating tap list written on a chalkboard in careful handwriting, the occasional live acoustic set on Thursday nights. I'd been waitressing there for about a year and a half, picked up bartending shifts when Theo needed coverage. Good tips, regular customers, nothing I couldn't handle. She first came in on a Wednesday, sat at the bar, ordered a glass of Malbec, and was polite in that particular way some people are polite. Deliberate, almost formal, like politeness was something she was performing rather than extending. She was maybe 10 years older than me, early 40s, put together. She tipped 25% on a $12 glass of wine, which you notice. She came back Thursday. Same seat, same wine, same tip. We made small talk. She asked what I was studying. I was in grad school part-time. And when I told her, she nodded like I'd confirmed something she'd suspected. By the third visit, I knew her name was Kora, and that she worked in commercial real estate, and that she had no particular reason to be in that neighborhood, except that she liked the bar. I didn't think that was strange. People discover places. I've worked hospitality long enough to know that regulars show up. What I started to notice over the course of about a week was the way she watched me work. Not in a rude way. Not in a way I could point to and say, that's inappropriate. It was more like she was tracking me, where I went, which tables I took, when I went back to the service station. Following my movement around the room with her eyes while appearing to do something else. Reading her phone, looking at her glass. I mentioned it to Jenny, another bartender, who said some customers just fixate on whoever's serving them, and it usually meant good tips. Jenny wasn't wrong about the tips, but she said one more thing while she was restocking the garnish tray, almost as an afterthought. That a couple months back, before I started picking up bar shifts, a woman matching Kora's description had asked her who the new server was, the one studying for her master's. Jenny hadn't thought anything of it at the time. She only mentioned it now because she'd put the two together. I hadn't told Kora I was in grad school. She'd told me. She'd known before she ever sat down. Around the second week, Kora asked me what days I usually worked. It came up casually, folded into a question about whether I'd be there Friday, and I answered without thinking about it. Wednesdays, Thursdays, every other Sunday. It wasn't until later that night, cashing out, that it occurred to me she hadn't asked when I'd be working again. She'd asked for the whole pattern, and I'd just confirmed something she already had a head start on. On the 9th day, Kora came in with someone else. The other woman was younger, louder, with the kind of energy that fills a room without permission. She introduced herself as Petra and immediately ordered 2 glasses of something expensive and a charcuterie board, and within 20 minutes, they were both laughing at a volume that was starting to pull the attention of the other tables. I didn't mind it exactly. The bar was half empty on a Monday. But there was something about the two of them together that felt staged. like a performance being run at a volume just slightly above what the scene called for. It was around 10:30 when Kora waved me over. "We're going to a party," she said. "Small thing, friends of friends, somebody's loft in the warehouse district." She said it casually, but her eyes weren't casual. "You should come when your shift ends." I smiled the way you smile at a customer. "That's sweet. I usually just go straight home after close." "You'd have fun," Petra said, leaning in. She had a way of speaking that made you feel like she was letting you in on something. "Kora talks about you." I kept the smile, said I'd think about it, went to check on another table. The thing was, I didn't know what to do with "Kora talks about you." In isolation, it could mean anything. They were regulars who liked their server. People say things like that. But something had shifted in the room, some quality of attention that I couldn't quite locate. The two of them kept glancing over even when I was at the other end of the bar. Not together, separately, at different moments, like they were taking turns. Petra came up to settle the tab around 11:15. While I was running the card, she said quietly, without looking up, "She's been looking for someone like you for a while." I handed the card back and said I hoped they had a nice night. She looked at me then, something behind her expression that I couldn't read. "You're smart," she said. "Good." Like she was registering a fact rather than paying a compliment. They left together. Kora paused at the door and looked back at me from across the room. Not a wave, just a look, the kind that takes inventory. I told Theo about it the next day, laid the whole thing out, Jenny's comment, the question about my schedule, Petra's line at the register. He listened and said he'd move me off the bar and onto floor shifts for a while, which wouldn't fix anything but would at least put some distance between me and whoever sat at that stool. I said yes. That Thursday, a night I would have been behind the bar if Theo hadn't moved me. I left through the side door after close, the one that lets out onto the alley behind the kitchen, the way I always did. There was a car idling at the mouth of the alley with its lights off, angled so the windshield faced the door I always used. Not the lot, not the street, the door. I told myself plenty of cars idle in that alley waiting on deliveries, that the angle didn't mean anything, that I was building a pattern out of nothing the same way I'd apparently been part of someone else's pattern for weeks. The car was gone by the time I glanced back. I never got a plate. I haven't used that door since. Kora came back once more, about a week later. She sat at the bar, and when she realized I wasn't working it, she looked around the room until she found me. I was at a corner booth taking an order. She didn't smile when she found my face. Didn't wave, didn't react at all, really. Just held there a second longer than a glance. The way you'd confirm an address you already knew was correct. She didn't stay. Left without ordering, without speaking to anyone, without leaving a tip in the jar she'd been filling every visit for 2 weeks. I don't know what they wanted exactly. I've turned it over enough times that I've stopped expecting the answer to come to me. What I know is that Petra's words didn't sound like a compliment, and that Kora's expression at the door wasn't the face of someone who expected to be told no. I worked floor shifts for the rest of the season. Never saw either of them again. A few months later, I quit that job and started working lunch shifts somewhere else. Somewhere smaller. Somewhere I could see the whole room at once. I still pick my seat in restaurants the way Kora used to pick hers. Back to the wall. Clear sight line to the door, to the kitchen, to whoever's working the room. I track servers without meaning to. Which one keeps glancing at a particular table? Which one lingers a second too long near someone who tips well? I didn't used to notice things like that. Now I can't stop. Some nights I catch myself doing it, and I have to look away, because I'm not sure anymore which side of that look I'm supposed to be on. If these stories kept you up tonight, my psychological thriller audiobooks are on this channel. Full length, same dark tone. Completely free. Start with Perfect Sister. When I See You, nurse Meg Simpson finds evidence that her fiancé and sister are hiding something. Her search for the truth becomes an obsession that threatens to destroy everyone she loves. Link in the description.